Okay, so today we're going to focus on our lesson 3.4, equations of a line. And one thing we're going to need to note today is the equation of a line. So the equation of a line that we're going to use here is y equals mx plus b. And there's a couple things here that we need to know. So I'm actually going to write that down here on this page. So y equals mx plus b. We need to know here what some of these points here mean. So M we used yesterday in our lesson, and we know that M stands for slope. Now the next thing we need to know here is our B. We need to know what the B stands for. So B is the y-intercept. So that is where the line is going to cross the y-intercept as 0. So that is important. Also, the M is important. X and Y here. What do we think X and Y are? So X and Y are actually just an X point and a Y point. So that's really where those X and Y come from. Anytime we are given an X and a Y, we can use that to help us find our y-intercept if we also have our slope. There's going to be some more examples later on here where you see how exactly we're going to use all of these. But I would write this down in your notes. It is important to know what each of these stand for. So M, again, is slope. B is our y-intercept. X and Y are just points at X and Y. Whenever we write this out, our Y is going to be there, our X is going to be there. M and B will always be numbers. So I should say here, these will always be numbers. So for example, we could get the equation of a line something like this. Y is equal to 3x plus 6. That would say, hey, our equation here, we have a slope of 3 and we have a y-intercept of 6. All right, let's go ahead and see how we're going to use this here. So we need to write the equation of the line with a slope of -2 and a y-intercept at -1. So remembering our equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. I know the two things we need to know is our M and our B. So it says our slope here is -2 and our B is -1. So our equation here is going to look like this. Y is equal to our M. Well, our M is -2. So we're going to say -2x plus our B. So our B is a -1. So instead of saying +1, since this is negative, we're going to say -1. So our first example here looks something like this. Y is equal to -2x minus 1. And again, write the equation of the line that has a slope of 1/2 and contains the point 0, 4. So let's go ahead and think about all of the letters that we have here. We said slope of 1/2. Well, that would be M. And then it contains the point 0, 4. This would be an X. This would be a Y. We are missing something. If you remember, the first thing I said here, the only two letters we need are M and B. Well, in this case here, we don't have B, but we have X and Y. So knowing that our equation is Y is equal to MX plus B, what we can do here is we can actually plug in our X, we can plug in our Y, we can plug in our M, and we can solve that equation for B. So let's go ahead and do that. So we said 0 is our X, 4 is our Y. So when we say Y equals here, we're going to plug in our Y, which is 4. So 4 is equal to M. Well, M we said was 1/2 times our X. Our X is 0 plus B. So we're going to go ahead and solve this equation for B. This one is actually going to be really, really easy to solve just because X is 0. So let's do this. 4 is equal to, what is 1/2 times 0? Well, anything times 0 is just 0. So we don't even have to write anything down for that. We can just say here that 4 is equal to B. So that's really, really good. We finally got our B. We know that M is 1/2. We know that B is 4. So in order to finish this question, all we have to do is plug those into our equation, y equals mx plus b. So we're going to say y is equal to M is 1/2. So y is equal to 1/2 x plus our b, and we said our b was 4. So our very first example here where we have to solve for our b is going to be y is equal to 1/2 x plus 4. Next one here, go ahead and take a pause. I want you to try to use the same exact process we used in the previous question to solve for this one. When you come back, we will finish it up. So write the equation of a line with a slope of negative 2/3 that contains the point 3, negative 1. So again, that is our m. We have our x and y, but we do not have our b, so we will need to solve for that. So here we go. Let's go ahead and plug in our points here. So y is equal to negative 1. M we said was negative 2/3, and x is 3. So in order to solve for our b here, this is what our equation would look like. Negative 1 is equal to negative 2/3 times 3 plus b. So this is going to be negative 1 equals here negative 2/3 times 3. So if we multiplied our numerators here, this would give us negative 6 divided by 3, which is negative 2. So we get negative 1 is equal to negative 2 plus b. Solving this for b, we've got to get rid of this negative 2. So we would add a 2 to both sides here, and it's going to be 1 is equal to b. So finally, we have our b. We know what our m is. It's negative 2/3. We know what our b is. B is 1. We are good to go ahead and write this formula out. So this is going to look like this. Negative y is equal to negative 2/3 x plus our b, which is 1. So final answer there, y is equal to negative 2/3 x plus 1. All right, writing the equation here, same thing. We have our m, we have our x, we have our y. We do not have our b. So let's go ahead and solve this for our b here. So we got y is equal to mx plus b. We're going to go ahead and plug in our points. So we're going to start with y. And we said y was 3. So 3 is equal to our m of negative 4 times our x, which is negative 1, plus b. And again, I'm getting all of these points from our question. So I have them written down, and I'm just plugging them right into the equation. So it's going to be 3 is equal to 4 plus b. Negative 4 times negative 1 would give us a positive 4. So here, solving this for b, we need to subtract a 4 from both sides, and we are going to get negative 1 is equal to b. So once we solve for b here, we know what our m is. We are good to go ahead and put this into the equation. This is going to be y is equal to negative 4x plus b, and b is a negative 1 here, so instead of saying plus 1, we are going to say minus 1. So y is equal to negative 4x minus 1. All right, write the equation of the line that passes through the points negative 1, 4, and 2, 2. So again, the two things we need in order to solve for this are our m and our b. Well, let's see. In any point in this question, do they give us either one of those? Looks like here they give us an x and a y, and then they give us another x and a y. So we don't know our m, and we don't know our b. So what do we do here? What's the move? Anytime that we don't know our m or our b, and they give us an xy and another xy. So essentially what they gave us here was x1, y1, and they give us an x2, y2. We can actually use the slope formula, our rise over our run, our y2 minus y1 over our x2 minus x1 to find the slope. And then once we have the slope, we can plug in a set of these numbers to find our b. Okay, so this one is a little bit longer process, but stick with me here. So let's go ahead and do this. So we know that the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We did that yesterday. So this is going to be y2 is 2 minus y1, which is 4. So 2 minus 4. x2 minus x1. So x2 is 2 minus a negative 1. So we're going to say plus 1. And then once we get to this point here, this is going to be 2 minus 4, which is negative 2, over 2 plus 1, which is 3. So we have a slope here of negative 2/3. And I want to go ahead and plug it in with one of our or one of our x and y's. So it doesn't matter which one we choose. We could choose -1, 4. We could choose 2, 2. I'm going to go ahead and choose 2, 2 just because these are both even. So I prefer to deal with even numbers. So again, we know that our equation is y equals mx plus b. We now know what our m is. We can have an x and a y. It doesn't matter, again, which one we choose. But we don't know what b is. So we need to solve this for b. So I'm going to go ahead and write in up here that our slope is -2/3. And we're just going to go ahead and solve this equation for b. So I'm going to take 2 from our y over here. And that's going to be equal to our m, which is -2/3, times our x, which is 2, plus b. So I got 2 is equal to -2/3 times 2 plus b. So this is going to be right here. 2 is equal to, this is going to be a -4/3 plus b. Okay, a -4/3 plus b. So once we get here, we got to solve this for b. Since this is a negative, we are going to add the 4/3 over. So 4/3 plus 2. Well, if we think fraction-wise here, 4/3 is 1 1/3. So this, we could say 3 1/3 is equal to b. And we could use decimals if you would like to. 3.33 repeating is equal to b. Either one of these would be fine for me. So let's just say here 3 1/3. So our final answer here, y is equal to, this is going to be -2/3 x plus 3 1/3. Okay, -2/3 x plus 3 1/3. That would be our final answer for this question. All right, moving on. We got to do the same thing here. So I want you to go ahead and pause this. Give yourself an opportunity here to practice this. So this is going to be the same exact type of question as the previous question. We're going to use the same process. So we know we got to solve for m. And then we got to solve for b. So let's go ahead and say x1, y1 for these two, x2, y2 for these. We know that our slope formula here is m is equal to our rise over our run, our y's minus our y, and our x's minus our x. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Plugging these into the formula here, y2 minus y1, well, -4 minus y1, which is 4. So -4 minus 4. x2 minus x1, that'd be 6 minus our x1, which is a -2. So we're going to say 6 plus 2. Down here, -4 minus 4, well, it's a -8. 6 plus 2, that is a +8. So we are going to get a slope here of -1. Our slope here is -1. So again, we got to choose between 2 points here. I'm going to go ahead and just choose these first two just because we have smaller numbers. And typically when we are doing algebra, it's going to be easier with those smaller numbers. So our equation here is y is equal to mx plus b. And we're going to go ahead and plug in these points here. So y is 4. M is -1. X, -2. Plus b. Got to solve this one for b. So let's go ahead, and once we do some multiplication here, this is going to be 4 is equal to a +2 plus b. And we need to subtract a 2 from both sides here to solve this for b. So once we get our b is equal to 2, we can go ahead and plug this into our formula. So y is going to be equal to, well, -1. I can also just say a -x, okay? -x, that just kind of shows me -1x. So you can write -1x, or you could just write -x. It's up to you. Both of them mean the same thing. Plus our b, and our b is a +2. So our equation here, y is equal to -1x plus 2, or if you want to write it this way as well, y is equal to -x plus 2. All right, moving on here, a few slides left. All we're doing on this slide here is finding the slope of the following lines. So go ahead, I want you to write down your educated guesses as to what the slopes of these lines are. Make sure we remember that our formula is y is equal to mx plus b. Okay, so for the first one here, y is equal to mx plus b, well, our m here is a 2, so our slope is 2. Next one here, m is mx plus b, our m is 1/3. Right here, our m is negative 3. And for the final one here, our m is a negative 2/3. So all we're doing there was just practicing identifying the slope of each equation. All right, two more here. Write the equation of the line that passes through the point -2, -4, and is parallel to y is equal to 2x minus 3. So we got to think about how we're going to do this. So we have the equation of a line, which is, we have the x and y of this line, which is -2 and -4. And we know that it has to be parallel to this line right here, y is equal to 2x minus 3. So I want to ask you, what do we know about parallel slopes? We have to know something about parallel slopes in order to figure out this question. We should know from the previous lesson that parallel slopes are in fact equal. Okay, so I know that our slope for this new line is going to be 2 because it has to be equal to the slope of the old line. And so now we know that our m is 2. Do we know what our b is? And hopefully you know that the answer to that is no, we don't. We do not know what the b is. So we're going to have to go through this and we're going to have to solve this for b. So we're going to say here that the -2 is our x, the -4 is our y. We're going to use this equation here, y is equal to mx plus b. We're going to solve for b. So y is -4. M is equal to 2. X is equal to -2. So this is going to be -4 is equal to -4 plus b. Now from here, got to add a 4 to both sides, and we are going to get that b is equal to 0. Okay, b is equal to 0. So this is how we're going to write this. We still need to write our slope in. So we're going to say here y is equal to 2x. And now when we talk about our y-intercept here, our b, if this is 0, do we really need to write that in there? And no, we don't. The answer to that is no, we don't. Since this is 0 here, if we add 0, if we subtract 0, no matter what we do, it's still going to be the same thing. So our final answer here is just going to be y is equal to 2x. All right, last one here. Write the equation of the line that passes through the point -3, 2 and is perpendicular to y is equal to -3x plus 1. So much like the last question, we would not be able to do the last question unless we knew what the relationship was like between parallel slopes. Perpendicular slopes are the same thing. We have to know what's going on in order to do the question. So the thing we know about perpendicular slopes is that they are negative reciprocals. Okay, so they are negative reciprocals. So if our m here is -3, our new m is going to be the negative reciprocal of -3. So remember, negative reciprocal is when we flip the fraction and we either make it a negative or we take away the negative. So since this is already negative, I know we're going to be taking that away. And when we flip 3, it's going to look like this. It's going to be 1/3. So our m here is going to be 1/3. We still do not know what our b is, so we're going to have to solve this for b using the points that they give us as our x and our y. So again, we're using y is equal to mx plus b. We're going to plug in our points here. So y is 2. M we said was 1/3. And x we said was -3. And then, of course, we have our plus b. So here, second step, this is going to be 2 is equal to -3 divided by 3 is going to be a -1. Sorry about that. Did not mean to put in a parenthesis. So this is going to be -1 plus b. Let's go ahead and subtract a1 from both sides here. So we are going to get 1 is equal to b. Now we know our m, we know our b, so we're good to go. We're going to go ahead and write in our answer here. So y is equal to 1/3 x plus our b, which is 1. So y is equal to 1/3 x plus 1.